Hello everyone, welcome to video 3 on population. Today I'm going to have a look at the population pyramids for three different locations in Russia, three different places. The Republic of Dagestan, the Magadan region, which is in eastern Siberia, and the Tula region, which is in the central region of European Russia. Now these three population pyramids look quite different from each other. So I'm going to say a few words about the reasons why the population pyramids are not the same. Now there is a PowerPoint attached to eJournal, which gives you more information about these three regions. So I'm not going to go into too much detail in the video. I'm just going to make a few basic points. So first of all, of these three regions, you might want to consider which of them is closest to the general population pyramid of Russia that I talked about in video number 1. Which population pyramid most closely resembles the population pyramid for Russia as a whole? And the answer is the pyramid of the Tula region. So like the general population pyramid of Russia, it has a relatively low birth rate, shown by relatively small numbers of people under the age of 20. It has a bulge in the middle. It has a significant number of people in the older than working age bracket, and it also shows a significantly higher number of women than men in the older age group. So how can we explain the population pyramid of the Tula region? Well, things happening in the Tula region are similar to things that are happening in Russia as a whole. The economy in this region has been affected by economic difficulties, particularly in the 1990s. You could say that the economy here has, to some extent, gone into decline. And not surprisingly, the birth rate has dropped. The population is also affected by emigration from this region to other places. Another thing we can say is the gender difference in the older age groups can be accounted for by the factors that I mentioned in video number 1, that men don't live as long because of industrial accidents, the effect of working in hazardous industrial conditions, an excess of smoking and alcohol consumption. In addition to the fact that women tend to live longer anyway in all populations, as long as pregnancy and childbirth has become a relatively low risk activity. So that's the Tula region then, a typical example of industrial European Russia, and therefore a very similar population pyramid to the overall general population pyramid of the country. The population pyramid which is closest to the average population pyramid for Russia, or the next closest, is clearly the Magadan region. But the Magadan region shows one interesting feature, which is a relatively small number of people of old age. So if we look at the over 75s, for example, there are far fewer over 75s in the Magadan region than there are in the Tula region. Now, Magadan is an area which has become more industrialized in recent years. It's an area focused on mining. And of course, because it is in Siberia, the climate is relatively harsh, particularly the winter. So this is an area that has attracted a lot of migrant labor. And these are people who have moved to the Magadan region comparatively recently. And this is not an area that these people will stay in when they reach retirement age. So when people retire who live and work in Magadan, it's quite likely that they will move to another part of Russia, perhaps somewhere a little bit warmer, after they retire or after they finish their working contracts in the region. Now, another clue that this is an area where there is a large number of migrant workers working in heavy industrial activity, in this case mining, is the gender imbalance, the fact that there are a larger number of men of working age in the Magadan region than women. Oh, finally, the Republic of Dagestan. The Republic of Dagestan is more like a pyramid. You'll notice it is more pyramid shaped. So the number of children and teenagers in the population is higher. You'll see that the birth rate is higher. If you look at the infants, for example, in Dagestan, the number of children is round about 8 out of 8 per thousand for boys, about 8 per thousand for girls, in contrast to about 5 per thousand for the other regions. And then the population pyramid tapers quickly above working age. And so again, there are relatively fewer older people in Dagestan than in Russia as a whole. And the reason for this is that Dagestan is a less economically developed area of Russia than the others that we've looked at. So it is much less economically developed than Russia as a whole. This is a developing economy and society rather than a mature economy. And therefore, half the population live in the countryside and engage in farming. So they have larger families. There is a higher rate of infant mortality. There is a lower life expectancy, which is what you would expect in a less economically developed society. So you might want to think about these 3 population pyramids and think about which stage of the demographic transition model each one should be located in. I think in the case of Tula, for instance, we can see that because of the low birth rate and the small number of children in the population, this is an area which may be experiencing a natural decrease in the population. In the case of Dagestan, by contrast, the high birth rate means that this is likely to be an area in which the population is increasing, which indeed it is. Anyway, there is more information about these population pyramids in the slides or the PowerPoints on the e-journal. So if you want to find more information about these locations, you can look at that information. Okay, thank you for listening. Okay, bye-bye.